So this next article is exactly what happens to you when you suffer from slavery overload syndrome, SOS. And it's over at the Smithsonian. Now, this is tied into a book by this guy named Andrew Lawler. And he's written for the New York Times, National Geographic, the Smithsonian. And this is part of the Smithsonian's April-May edition. And he focused it, the article is about, I wasn't able to download this because I'm having issues with the Wi-Fi with my Chromebook. So I had to take notes from my phone. That's a real pain in the ass. It's a real pain in the ass to have to take notes from your phone on an article that you barely can see. Anybody else have that happen as a YouTuber? Hey, but I love doing this channel, so what can I say? But Andrew Lawler, and by the way, thank you for watching, subscribing, being a part of this thing called the Culture Confederacy. And if you're new, no fancy graphics, epic soundtracks, pretty boy camera angles. We do this bare bones, talking about censorship, preservation of art, music, history, culture, maybe attend to politics, current events. So that's what we do on the channel. But getting to the issue at hand here. So Andrew Lawler has written this article at the Smithsonian, focusing on this incident that happened around the time of the American Revolution, Williamsburg, Virginia. And he goes from talking about this incident in Williamsburg, which involved taking the gunpowder from an ammunition, to talking about freedmen in the Continental Army and slavery. And somehow we end up with Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation. So I just took some notes on this. Like I said, had a hard time trying to download this on my Chromebook. But the title of the article, What Spurred the South to Join the American Revolution? How a disagreement with a Scottish lord over westward expansion, a cache of gunpowder, and the future of enslaved labor helped kickstart the Southern colonies' embrace of the radical cause. The radical cause. Did you know the American Revolution was a radical cause? I mean, you've heard of the lost cause, the just cause. Now we have the radical cause. Thank you, Andrew Lawler. The radical cause. What spurred the South to join the American Revolution? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was the abuses by the king. That could be a possibility. But he doesn't go there in this article. No. So, just a brief synopsis here. As I said, just going by my notes. You had this Scottish Earl, Lord Dunmore, governor of Virginia, I believe it was. Now, some of these regions, or principalities, as they were known, colonies, had their own governors. It's kind of weird how it was set up back then, but that's how they did it. And he was very suspicious of the patriots, of these colonists. And when he found out that Patrick Henry was planning to form a militia. Now, Patrick Henry, I think, was part of the wealthy tobacco class or planter class in Virginia. But when he caught wind of this, he decided that he was going to have a ship which was stationed nearby in the James River, anchored in the James River, go in the middle of the night into the ammunitions, the gunpowder room in Williamsburg, and take out all of the gunpowder. Now, his explanation for this, once the people found out about this, because there was an early riser who saw the commotion, he rang the alarm. I guess they had alarms in these cities at that time, or towns at this time. And William Pasteur, who was sympathetic to the Patriots, was awakened by this, by all the commotion, saw what was going on, but it was too late to stop these guys because by that time they had rolled everything down to the river, ready to put this thing on the ship. So what happened was that Lord Dunmore had scratched out a letter, had some informants, and had them sent that letter with the gunpowder room key to the captain and his crew to have him go and raid this gunpowder room at the ammunitions of Williamsburg. So this was a big brouhaha. And the colonists were pissed. I mean, they were absolutely pissed over this. So his explanation was, well, I did this because there were rumors of a slave uprising. And it was true. There were rumors at that time of a slave rebellion. Remember, you had this slave rebellion in Haiti? I believe that happened around that time. Somebody can correct me in the comment section below. So they accepted his explanation, but things still started to boil over. And later on, Patrick Henry would bring this militia to Norfolk. They would march on Norfolk after, I think, going to Fredericksburg. So that's a synopsis of the article here of what happened. But he goes into this territory of how, now, George Washington was involved with this because George Washington was a friend of Lord Dunmore, and they had planned, according to the article, they say schemed, but they had planned to buy land in the Ohio Valley. But the British government at the time, remember, we were still under the rule of Great Britain, had forbid this because they didn't want a war with the Native Americans. So Washington was at Mount Vernon when he got the call from Patrick Henry or whoever to come to the aid, provide weapons or whatever they needed, supplies for this militia. Washington just sat on his ass and did nothing because he was friends with Lord Dunmore and he didn't want to start, ruffling feathers with the British government, you name it. But somehow, Andrew Lawler, he goes in and out here. It's really confusing, this article, what he's trying to talk about. Because if you want to talk about slavery, well, then talk about slavery, slavery during the American Revolution. Talk specifically about slavery during the American Revolution. If you want to talk about this particular incident, then talk about this particular incident. But don't sit there and merge everything together and hide behind the guise of trying to tell this grand story when in reality what you're trying to show is that the South has always been interested in preserving slavery, and that's the real reason why they joined the American Revolution. I mean, because he admits it here. Without having to say it, he admits it by going down the line of talking about Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation. Lord Dunmore passed because he was afraid that he was going to be attacked by these colonists, because they'd actually marched to his palace, knocked on his door, asked him to return the gunpowder, which he did. But then the next day, he told Pasteur, I think it was Randolph. What's the guy's name? Not William Randolph, but another Randolph. He told this guy Randolph that these colonists had threatened him the day before, and that if they had continued to threaten him, that he would burn Williamsburg to the ground, burn it to ashes, and that he would free any of the slaves by these rebel masters. So, sorry, I just hit something here in the space where I'm working. Didn't mean to. But that's what happened. So, Lawler says that is the first example of emancipation. Really? Are you sure? Are you really sure about that? Are you not sure that maybe slaves were being emancipated before the American Revolution, Mr. Lawler? But it is funny to see how he goes from talking about this gunpowder incident to talking about enslaved soldiers in the Continental Army under Washington, Lord Dunmore's Emancipation Proclamation, and then all of a sudden we end up with Abraham Lincoln saying it would be the model. Dunmore's Emancipation Proclamation would be the model for the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. So I thought I'd share this with you today, and it's just laughable to me. It's a real scream to see somebody write an article like this as they're plugging their book. Nothing wrong with you putting your book out there or promoting a book. I don't have a problem with that. But you put this article out there, tie it to this book, and your main objective here is to show that the only thing that the South was interested in was slavery. And that's why they joined the American Revolution. And by God, that's why they fought the Civil War. Well, now what you've done, Mr. Lawler, because all 13 colonies practiced slavery, because if your argument is that slavery was a reason why they joined the American Revolution, the radical cause, as you call it, then maybe we need to re-examine the Civil War, because if all 13 colonies practiced slavery, then we can make the argument, you've opened the door to make the argument, that all these other colonies fought the American Revolution to preserve slavery. That was one of the reasons they fought the American Revolution, was to preserve slavery. So you've opened that door. Now we can have that discussion. Thank you, Mr. Lawyer. Thank you. Well, I think the real reason why these colonists joined the American Revolution is because of the abuses and corruption under the king. And he doesn't mention in this article the Stamp Act. He doesn't mention the Boston Tea Party, two very important events which people argue are what helped really fuel the American Revolution. Now, he does mention, to his credit, he does mention the battles at Lexington and Concord. But all 13 colonies, again, practiced slavery. So you've just opened up this door. And now we can talk about it. Again, thank you, Mr. Lawler. So tell me what you think in the comments section below. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. You can follow me at Instagram, #JasonComposes, because I write music in my spare time. You go to X, Culture Confederacy, Culture Confed 1 on X. Now you can find me at Substack. But it is really funny to see these people so focused on slavery, they miss the big picture. So you all have a good night. I'll catch you next time, and take care.